Welcome back to Community Health Heroes. Did you know some consider Mardi Gras to be the deadliest holiday in Louisiana? When you mix the more than 1.4 million revelers who usually pack themselves into New Orleans with large amounts of alcohol, drunk drivers, sharp parade throws, tons of trash, and giant parade floats along crowded streets, it could lead to a recipe for disaster. With us now is Dr. Shelly Swindler, a primary care doctor with Ochsner Health Center, Driftwood, to tell us how revelers of all ages can stay safe and healthy this carnival season. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Swindler.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And happy Mardi Gras.
You too.
Mardi Gras is such a fun time of year, but it's also super dangerous. Tell us about some of the biggest type of injuries that you see during Mardi Gras.
Absolutely. So it can be a dangerous time. And some of the most common injuries that we see are sunburns, concussions, and eye injuries. I'd really like to start today by just talking about some general rules for safety. And I know some of this will sound like common sense, but sometimes we forget those common sense things when we get wrapped up in the excitement of a celebration like Mardi Gras.
That's for sure.
First of all, you want to make sure that you stay well aware of your surroundings. If you're going to the parade rounds to watch a parade, there's going to be lots of traffic there. There are lots of people, lots of vehicles, lots of floats. So need to be aware of what's going on around you so that you don't accidentally collide with one of these things.
And also barricades, you have to watch barricades.
Right. So you need to respect those barriers. They're put up for your safety. You don't want to go past them for any reason, even if you see some tempting beads or doubloons out there in the street.
I've done it.
Right, you've got to leave those be because you don't know what float or what next object is going to come down that street. Even if you see something tempting that's underneath a float that's not moving, just leave that there. It's really not worth the risk because we don't know what kind of moving parts are under there.
That is very good advice. And I think one of the other things you need to tell people is to keep things in perspective, right? I mean, those beads may be fantastic, but are they worth the trip to the ER?
Exactly. So we want you to go out there and have fun, but at the end of the day, this is a celebration. It should be a fun and happy time. It's really not worth risking some sort of injury to go after those really nice beads.
You mentioned sunscreen. What do you recommend?
So I recommend that people bring sunscreen with them to the parade grounds and reapply that frequently. You want a nice sunny day for your parade, but with that comes harmful UV rays from the sun. So reapply frequently and also think about seeking some shelter in a home, under a tent, or under an umbrella for part of the parade.
That's good advice. But of course, Mardi Gras changes a lot when you have kids in tow. So I know a lot of the rules change when you have kids, especially for safety precautions. What do you advise parents to do when they bring kids to a parade?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. I actually have a 16-month-old daughter, so I'm very keen on child safety. There are quite a few things that you can do. I think first off, it's important to take a photograph of your child that day before you go out to the parade grounds. And that way you have not only a recent photo, but a photo of them in what they're wearing that day in case you become separated from them. You can also have a conversation with your child before you go out there about what to do if they get separated from you. Have a meetup place, have a time to meet up again in case separation does happen. And then have a designated adult who's going to be watching out for that child or those children, just like you would have a designated driver if you went out in the evening.
How about ladder safety? You see rows and rows of ladders. For the most part, the parents are leaning on them so they look like they're stable. But that just looks scary. I mean, what do you recommend telling parents about ladders?
That's a great question. I see those often used on the parade route so that the children can see the parade and hopefully get some nice beads, right? But they can be dangerous if not used properly. Some things that you want to do if you're going to use a ladder, first of all, you want to make sure that the legs are all even and sturdy and on level ground. You don't want a wobbly ladder with your little one above. You also want to make sure that they have a safety bar in front, preferably along with a belt that can snap them and hold them in place. And finally, you don't want a child who is too large for that ladder up there at the top because that is going to make it wobbly.
It's kind of top heavy. Right?
Exactly, and unsteady.
So you're enjoying Mardi Gras either at a parade or a bar just on Bourbon Street, and you might be tempted to have a Mardi Gras carnival cocktail or two. Mm-hmm. Talk about overindulging during Mardi Gras, because a lot of problems, the serious ones, have to do with drunk driving and alcohol-related incidents. What do you recommend to people? What do you tell people about Mardi Gras safety when it comes to alcohol?
Right, that's an excellent question. Some of the injuries that we see are caused by alcohol, probably most of the time caused by alcohol. Particularly, we see a lot of concussion injuries from falls caused by alcohol. So if you're going to drink, if you're of age and want to drink responsibly, that's okay to do, but make sure you drink plenty of water along with that alcohol so that you prevent yourself from becoming dehydrated.
I think I remember there's some sort of ratio, like 2 bottles of water for one beer or something, is that right?
Right, I usually tell people 1 to 1. So if you've had an alcoholic beverage, now's the time to take a break and have yourself a bottle of water.
Now, another thing to help too is to eat, but also you don't want to overindulge either, especially if you have a chronic illness. I mean, if you have diabetes, you don't want to go out to a Mardi Gras party and eat all the king cake available. What do you tell people about, how do you advise people about not overindulging in food during Mardi Gras?
Right, so our holidays here tend to be packed with really great food, so it can be a particularly hard time if you've got a medical condition like diabetes and you're really trying to stick to your appropriate diet. I think there are 2 things that you can do. One is before you go out to watch a parade or go to a celebration, have yourself a light snack at home, a light snack that follows your dietary guidelines, and that way when you're out there watching the parade, you're not starving and you're not tempted to eat those unhealthy foods. Another thing you can do is actually pack some snacks for yourself.
That's a good idea.
So you're going to bring your own, right? If you have diabetes, they're going to be low sugar, low carb snacks. Throw them in a backpack and bring them with you out to the fairgrounds.
I also, this is kind of a drag when it comes to Mardi Gras, but you know, life still goes on. You might have a fitness routine or some sort of, you need time to rest, to recoup. How do you fit all that in during Mardi Gras? Would you recommend someone to stick to a fitness routine during that time?
Absolutely. So you really want to stick to those things that are making you healthy and you know, are good for your overall general health. So you don't want to put those aside. You really just want to say yes to these Mardi Gras events that you really and truly want to go to. Don't feel bad if you want to say no and take a break and rest or go to the gym and get some exercise in. Because we want you to have fun at Mardi Gras, but we also want you to stay balanced and practice self-care.
That's very good advice. If our viewers want to learn a little more about Mardi Gras safety or where to go if they get injured, where can they go?
Any of our Ochsner websites, ochsner.org. will be helpful for you.
Great. Well, Dr. Swindler, thank you for spending some time with us and have a wonderful Mardi Gras.
Thank you, you too.
When we return, local nurse practitioner Sophia Thomas would tell us why NPs are becoming a more popular and practical alternative to seeing a doctor in our Community Health Heroes report. We'll be right back.